Coming up in this week's roundup of the cruise news, there are ships that have had power failures, fires on board, and propulsion issues and itinerary changes. There's also been a gastrointestinal outbreak on board another ship. We look at a mayor trying to ban cruise ships, and then on the more positive side, expansion of a cruise line, new entertainment offerings from Princess, and those huge celebrations for Carnival Cruise Line. It's July 20th, 2025. Welcome to the Cruise News Roundup, brought to you by the Solo Muster Drill. First up, the Norwegian Star, carrying over 2,300 passengers, commenced what many might consider to be a bucket list cruise when it departed from New York on Saturday, July 12th, travelling on a pretty rare and interesting transatlantic crossing, going via Canada, then onto Greenland and ending up in Iceland. Unfortunately, just 2 hours into its journey, while still in the Hudson River, the ship was losing power, resulting in there being no lights, no air conditioning and no propulsion. The decision was made to return to port. Tugboats were required to get the ship back to port, and repairs were duly carried out, and eventually the Coast Guard deemed it appropriate for the ship to return to sea. The second departure took place at 12:30 a.m. that night, or that following morning, and the ship has since made up time, and the itinerary is happily for all now back on track. Aboard another bucket list cruise sailing pretty similar itinerary, also out of New York, this time on board Princess Cruises Island Princess, also had a very difficult and worrying time this week. On Tuesday morning, July 15th, just one day after the ship had departed from New York and was approaching its first port of call in Halifax, Nova Scotia, two situations occurred. Firstly, there were reports that in the early hours of Tuesday morning, sometime between 2 and 3 a.m, there was a medical evacuation of an ill passenger. This was followed by a very alarming situation around 6 a.m. when a fire broke out on deck 12 in the galley area attached to the buffet. The captain made an announcement and fire crews on board were seen rushing to the scene. Thankfully, by about 7:15 a.m, it's been reported that the captain gave an updated announcement that the fire had been successfully put out and all were safe. The ship has since been able to continue on its itinerary, and passengers were able to continue to use the buffet. Another of the Princess ships, this time the Ruby Princess, has also been encountering problems on its most recent itinerary in Alaska. The Ruby Princess departed from San Francisco on July 6th on an 11-day Alaska sailing, and from the outset guests were advised that there were some propulsion issues that would result in the ship travelling at a lower speed than usual. There were also changes to the order of port visits, and because of this there were now 3 sea days instead of 2 originally scheduled at the start of the cruise. There have also been changes to port times in Juneau and Ketchikan, but by far the most disappointing for passengers was the loss of the scheduled Glacier sailing day, where it was due to sail in Endicott Arm on Tuesday the 15th of July. In addition, on the return journey, the ship also missed the scheduled port stop in Victoria on Vancouver Island, and that was swapped out for a shorter port call in Prince Rupert. Reports indicate that Princess Cruises initially provided compensation of $50 each to guests earlier in the week, and by Thursday they had provided another $150 as onboard credit, bringing the total compensation to $200. But given the significant disruption that has occurred, and in particular the disappointment of missing Glacier Day, which is always the highlight of an Alaska cruise, this has generally been considered to be insufficient compensation. So at this point it remains to be seen if Princess provide any improved compensation measures. At the time of recording, the new itinerary remains set to start from San Francisco today, Sunday the 20th of July, despite there being no indication that the problems have actually been fully resolved. So if you're one of the guests booked on that cruise setting off today, I hope all goes well and that you don't encounter the same difficulties. And from engine trouble to illness outbreaks. On Wednesday, news emerged that Royal Caribbean's Navigator of the Seas had a significant level of gastrointestinal illness on board its previous 7-day round-trip sailing, which was from Los Angeles between the 4th and the 11th of July. The ship was sailing a Mexican Riviera itinerary, and on its return to Los Angeles on July 11th, the outbreak was reported to the CDC. 140 people on board, including 7 members, were struck down with an illness, and although it hasn't been precisely confirmed yet, it is believed to be the norovirus. The amount of ill passengers and crew on board represented over 3% of the overall ship population, thereby making it a reportable incident to the CDC. Cleaning measures were inevitably stepped up on board, and there is no indication that there has been a continuing problem in the most recent itinerary. Moving now to a further update on a story that was first covered a couple of weeks ago, and that was where the mayor of Nice boarded a police boat together with the camera crew, to go and confront the crew or the captain of Royal Caribbean's Voyager of the Seas, which had dropped anchor outside Villefranche-sur-Mer for a scheduled port call. The mayor was apparently angry at the presence of the cruise ship after a law previously passed came into effect on July 1st, banning cruise ships of over 2,500 passengers from Villefranche-sur-Mer and also banning ships of over 450 passengers from docking in Nice. In that encounter, Royal Caribbean refused to allow the mayor to board the ship and asserted that the ship was entitled to be there and had all its paperwork in order. And it was pointed out by many commentators and legal experts that in fact the mayor was firstly not entitled to board the vessel and secondly did not have jurisdiction to enforce the law. In an update on this, it appears that Mayor Christiane Estroli decided to remedy this by issuing a municipal order imposing the same restrictions as of the July 1st law and effectively giving himself the power that was previously pointed out that he did not have. That, however, has not been successful and it has been tested in court. Earlier this week, a French administrative court in Nice determined that the mayor of Nice, and I quote, was not competent to issue such measures, and they also clarified that, I quote, only the police chief of the Alpes Maritime region could organise the entry and exit and movement of ships. On that same day as the ruling, the Celebrity Equinox, which exceeds the 2,500 passenger limit, was also in port and remained there for the duration of its scheduled stop. Next up, some news from Margaritaville at Sea, the smallest cruise line in the world. Previously, they had announced the acquisition of a third ship to join their little fleet, and that ship is formerly the Costa Fortuna, which had been operated by Costa Cruise Lines. Now, as of this week, Margaritaville at Sea have announced the name for the new ship. It will be known as the Margaritaville Beachcomber. Further details have not yet been released of where it will be home ported or what the itineraries will be. That's expected to follow later this year when bookings will open for what is anticipated to be the start of a sailing schedule in late 2026 after the ship has been refitted. Continuing with the theme of new cruise ships and moving now to Princess Cruise news, excitement has been building as the clock ticks down to the launch of the brand new ship, the Star Princess, and this week details were announced of the new entertainment offerings that will be on board. The ship will feature two new production shows called Meridian and Illuminate Spectacle of Joy. Meridian is described as being a mix of high-energy dance choreography and will be a fictional castaway drama which apparently will be set on a luxury cruise liner. The other offering in the main theatre, or in the arena as it will be known on the Star Princess, is Illuminate Spectacle of Joy. This will have what is being described as a multi-generational pop score. There will also be other new entertainment offerings on board, including a candlelight concert series which will happen in the Glass Dome venue area. This concert series is intended to provide a relaxing but atmospheric experience for guests. There are also plans of making more use of the very different piazza space that will be on board the Star Princess, similar to the one on the Sun Princess, and there are pop-up performances being planned for this as well as other areas around the ship. All of this will be unveiled when the Star Princess commences its inaugural sailing in October of this year. And finally, yesterday, Saturday, July 19th, was a huge day for Carnival Cruise Line, with the official opening of its $600 million private island Celebration Key in the Bahamas. The Carnival Vista was the first ship to visit the island. On Saturday, the destination island was officially opened. On hand were Carnival Cruise Line President Christine Duffy, Carnival Corporation CEO Josh Weinstein, Chief Fun Officer Shaquille O'Neal, and the Carnival Vista Captain, Captain Paolo Severini. That brings us to an end of the update of cruise news for this week. If you found this informative or useful, please consider hitting the like button. And if you'd like to stay up to date on more cruise news or on my cruise vlogs in general once they're released, please consider subscribing to the channel. That would really be appreciated. For now, I hope you have a good week and thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.